Merry Christmas, Mr. Mo is a drama comedy about a lonely barber living in a small town who's dreamt of being an actor his whole life. But ever since his wife passed away 15 years ago, he became a lot more reserved with his ambitions and personality, which has led to a rather unfulfilling and mundane routine that he's grown comfortable with. But when he receives some worrying news from the doctor, he decides to create an opportunity to make his old dreams a reality by reaching out to his estranged son, who's an aspiring filmmaker, and asking for his help in making a short film that he can share with the locals on Christmas Day. Now, with a premise like this, and the movie being classified as a comedy, it might sound like it would offer something a bit more fun and lively. At least, that's what I was anticipating coming into this movie. However, director Im Dae-Hyung makes the tone very clear from the beginning, as he presents a quiet drama, intentionally stripped of color, that focuses more on this feeling of longing and remembrance through a father's last chance to try and reunite with his son and accomplish something for the both of them. That's not to say there aren't humorous moments sprinkled throughout, as there's a number of sporadic instances where Mr. Mo will exhibit a bit of charm, and the making of this short film and the short film itself is fun to watch. But the quieter aspects of the movie dominates the majority of the runtime, as the colder atmosphere captures the distant dynamic between father and son and wraps it up under a very sweet and wholesome story that's explored through 5 chapters. Chapter 1 begins by introducing the character of Mr. Mo and his loneliness through his repetitive routine, which feels fairly uninteresting at first, as it's evident that he's a quiet man who keeps to himself and may not be the most pleasant person to be around. But with this diagnosis from the doctor, it's almost like the person he was before his wife passed away slowly starts to come to the surface. And it isn't long before we begin to see glimpses of a different side of him that reveals a bit more of his underlying personality and creativity that he appears to have locked away for 15 years. Chapter 2, on the other hand, introduces Mr. Mo's son and his son's girlfriend. Again, it might feel uninteresting initially, as it kind of pulls back to the more quieter side of the movie, as we gradually start to get a better look at this father-son dynamic and witness a bit of mutual stubbornness between the two. But through snippets of dialogue and subtle characteristics, the movie gradually breathes more life into this setting and these characters as they eventually come to terms with the idea of making this short film. So these first 2 chapters nicely serve as a good introduction that sets the stage for how the rest of the movie will be softly directed through a balance of quietness and light humor mixed in with a sense of muted compassion. The following chapters will continue to embody this as these characters go on to make the short film, and Mr. Mo and his son will find themselves on a bit of a personal journey with a handful of somewhat reserved but intimate moments along the way before arriving at the 5th and final chapter, which presents an affirming conclusion as the short film is complete and ready to be shown to the public. It's a pretty earnest way to end the movie, while nicely paying off on the father-son angle and everything the movie quietly builds up to, as the significance of the making of and the completion of this short film becomes more apparent and stands out as one of the strongest aspects of the movie, especially when you really think about how meaningful this is to these 3 characters, as this father and son were able to achieve their dreams in some capacity. It's also nice to be able to see the completed short film, as it's very fun to watch and provides a fine slice of comedy while being pretty expressive in regards to what Mr. Mo's been feeling under the surface. And I also liked the idea of the locals being invited to a screening of a movie made by someone they might not have much of an impression of. So in that sense, the completed short film also works to reveal the true personality of someone who appears to be rather uninteresting on the outside. While the movie as a whole has its moments to highlight that Mr. Mo is actually quite attentive, caring, and funny, despite his outwardly appearance. I kind of feel like this idea can also be extended to the actor who portrays Mr. Mo, as Ki Joo-Bong is someone I'm mainly familiar with for his many smaller roles. And with over 100 acting credits to his name, he's the kind of actor where you'll probably recognize his face, but you might not necessarily be able to pinpoint what you've seen him in, as his smaller roles may not leave much of an impression. So it was great to see him finally lead a movie and show off more of his acting capabilities, and he definitely plays his character very well when it comes to both the drama and the light doses of comedy, as well as how he conveys certain characteristics. The other actors also do a pretty good job to emphasize the general tone and direction, as though Jung-Hwan plays Mr. Mo's son with a similarly restrained attitude, but in a more youthful light, whereas Won-Hee nicely fits in to bridge these two characters together through a more supportive nature, and I really liked the minimal but comforting enthusiasm she brings to the movie, as her character, alongside a small supporting role from Jeon Yeo-Bin, do well in sort of breaking away from the mundanity and adding a bit of life to the movie with their presence, which is a very delightful addition. Overall, I think it's a really nice movie with a thoughtful approach that initially feels somewhat laid back in its direction, but then comes together to deliver a rather heartfelt story with glimmers of warmth scattered throughout. It's definitely not your typical Christmas-themed movie, and the quieter nature may be off-putting for some viewers, but I would still recommend watching this movie. And if you're a fan of the director's 2019 film Moonlit Winter, then I think you'll also enjoy and appreciate the value in what he set out to do with this movie.